I think for me, it has to do with curiosity. It has to do with who you are. And if I'm going to work with you, I need to know you.
Martin Scorsese, you recently joined Letterboxd and you gave us a wonderful list of 6 pictures that inspired Killers of the Flower Moon as part of a larger list of over 50 works that inspired your whole filmography. So from one Sicilian American to the other, welcome to the family.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's start with The Heiress, because you actually listed that film twice. It was an inspiration for The Age of Innocence and Flower Moon. And I really want to focus specifically on Olivia de Havilland's performance as Catherine, because I found so many similarities between her and Lily Gladstone's performance as Molly.
Well, yes, I think what happened with us with the touchstone that Leo and myself and Eric worked on or responded to really was Morris and, of course, Catherine in The Heiress. And the thing about it was, I saw The Heiress, I think I was about 8 years old, and it was a very, very powerful experience. My father took me to movies and saw it. What's interesting is ultimately how she makes her decision towards the end of the film. And I don't want to give away people to see The Heiress. You should see this. It's based on a play by Getz with the names of the playwrights, but based on Henry James's novella, Washington Square. The thing about it is, like, does he really want her, or does he want her money? And that's the key. And so that was a big influence. Clift's performance was a big influence on Ernest on that. When he comes back, is he really in love with her? Or is he simply saying, well, your father's dead now and I can have the money? And she does what she does. And now, ultimately, whether she's right or wrong, in other words, whether she reads him right or reads him incorrectly, it's not important. She makes that change. She becomes strong. As she tells her father, I have good teachers because you told me how not to love. It's very powerful. And I always felt that Morris, the character played by Clift, when he came back, I don't think he did love her. I don't think, And Leo said, well, what if he did? And so we were playing with that for Ernest and Molly.
Mazeska kolopi konda.
Mazeska kontaska. Aji milonke konta achaska. Taita akli achai.
Insaka pa mazeska adina kai. Mazeska inki konda kai. Yoktape.
Lily Gladstone has the appearance even of Olivia de Havilland in the film. She really looks that way. But Catherine is very strong, and she doesn't give in at that point. I think Molly is the strongest person in this film, played by Lily. And ultimately, she makes a decision. It's just that, not to give away anything in my movie, but it's just that ultimately, how far does love go? And she holds and holds and holds until she decides. But his character, yes, he loves her. There's no doubt. Ernest loves her. But we based it, we kept referring back to Morris in The Heiress and Catherine. There's no doubt about that. There's even elements of it. Leo would talk about A Place in the Sun, which we had here in this list too, George Stevens film version. And in a case like that, when he moves that little rowboat, is he really intending for her to go over? There's a doubt there. There really is a doubt. He has all the evidence that he wants her gone, but is it really in him? And so I think it may have been.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing up Montgomery Clift, because he appears in several of your other picks, such as Red River, Wild River, All the Rivers. So what draws you to Clift as a performer?
Well, Clift, there was Brando, Dean, and Clift. They were the three, and we were just young enough to be affected by them. We were not the only ones, of course, but other generation too, another generation. But Clift's performances are very subtle. And particularly in Red River is interesting, because the relationship between John Wayne, his greatest performance next to, I'd say, The Searchers, his stepfather, so to speak, and Montgomery Clift, is almost biblical in a way.
Don't try and tell me what to think. I'll take your orders about work, but not about what to think.
You think I'm to blame for that?
Just as sure as you're sitting there.
And so the struggle between the father and the son, it was very, very important to us, in that how it reflected itself in Bill Hale, played by De Niro, and Ernest, played by Leo, in this.
And don't swear on your children. Makes you look foolish.
Well, I ain't foolish because I'm gonna.
In Wild River, this is a man coming in from the outside into an area that is, it's really another world, another planet. And he's using reason. He's everything in his kit, so to speak, doesn't work where he is.
Today, 98% of the people in this valley have no electricity. The dam will bring them the electricity.
I expect that's what you call progress, isn't it?
They think differently, they work differently, and they behave differently, they live differently, and they have a different philosophy. Yet, he has to find the heart of that in order for it, and the heart comes through Lee Remick. You know, and there's a beautiful scene of the two of them kissing in the car, and there's a tree reflected on the windshield, and she keeps telling him,
Can't get enough of me right now, can't you? Tell me.
No, I can't.
and that became the scene with Leo and Lily in the car, where he says, she goes, look, your hand on my skin. He says, I want to marry you, you know, I love you. And that all of that came from the tone and mood of Wild River, you know.
And then you also have 2 silent films for
Yes.
us, which have been logged by fewer than 100 Letterboxd members. So we're going to bump those numbers up with this video.
I would hope. I want you to see The Last of the Line, a movie by Thomas Ince. It's a two-reeler, I guess they called it at the time, 1915, I think. And it deals with, again, interestingly enough, at that point, one of the key characters is played not by a Native American. All the others are played by Native Americans. But the son of the chief is played by Sesia Hayakawa, who was a great star around that time. In any event, the destruction of the very fabric of the culture of the indigenous people, and particularly the guy who plays the chief, I think he was 80 years old at the time, not an actor. The last image of him mourning his son, it's as if it just speaks for the loss of all those cultures. There's something about it because it also has to do with Christian symbolism. And that's something that always stuck with me. Now, the other one is The Lady of the Dugout. And that's interesting because W.S. Van Dyke directed that, but it's really a film by Al Jennings. Al Jennings was him and his brother were real outlaws. He went to jail, he came out, he saw the light, and he became a movie director and movie actor and movie producer. But what you see in this film is Al and his brother, and it's the costuming, it's the landscape. There's a robbery sequence of a town at the end that is the basis of all the big robbery sequences of a bank in certain movies later on, the Jesse James, the Great Minnesota Raid, particularly the beginning of the Wild Bunch, Peckinpah, where the people in the town are waiting for them, they didn't realize. But you see it in this film, in its essence of minimalism. In other words, this is really the way it must have happened, you know. And you see it in their costumes. The flaw with the picture is, and also how people are living underground, a dugout. They live in a dugout, you know. How these people did that, to live that way. It was just extraordinary to want to come out that far and live underground. The thing about Al Jennings and his brother was that it became a situation where very often, you still have it now, where there were a number of people feeling they were glorifying the bad guy. And so a lot of films were made against him. But this was one of the big hits. And this is also a film that's been restored by the foundation. So for me, it had the spirit of what the West really might have looked like in motion pictures, not just in stills. And the coolness of Jennings' performance is like, you know, basically he's doing what he did in life. And so for me, I thought it would be interesting for people to see it. Oh, and one other thing,
Yes.
Let's not forget the other key film, Giant.
Yes,
Giant
can't forget
overshadows
Giant.
all this in a sense because of the great visuals and great production design and wonderful actors and direction by George Stevens. Giant always was in the back of our heads. It's always there because it was such a major impression on me when I was a kid.
And for my last question, just when I learned about how you listened to the Osage community about respectful and authentic portrayals, it really reminded me of how you were listening to Ellen Burstyn's experiences as a woman when you made Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, which is one of my favorite of your films. And you've been listening so intently to others for your whole career. And I was wondering if you could just real quick hone in on why that is such an important skill for artists to have to make more meaningful works.
Well, I think for me, it has to do with curiosity. It has to do with who you are. And if I'm going to work with you, I need to know you. That doesn't mean I need to know you as completely a personal life, personal, that sort of thing. But you know who you are, how you think, where you want to go with the art we're trying to make. You know, if you have limitations, you won't do certain things, maybe we're not meant to be working together. You know, but if you bring ideas and I get excited by those ideas and we work on them together, or they accept what I have given them and really understand and want to pursue that and make that real, that's wonderful. And I think for me, with Ellen and the Osage, the Tibetans in Kundun, in Morocco when we shot Last Temptation of Christ, all these things are, or in the Japanese in Silence and shooting in Taiwan. So this was these are in a way blessings for me because I get to learn more about who we are as people.
Thank you so much for your time and for joining Letterboxd and the list. And there's going to be the full list of over 50 movies that have influenced your whole filmography on Letterboxd.
Oh, that'd
as
be
well.
great.